Let's get out of here real quick. Good morning, everybody. We have a exciting and let's see, what's the word? Information-filled morning here on a Tuesday. So multiple new layoff announcements coming out of the beautiful industry that is tech, and some of this is a continuation of things we've been seeing with the same companies, but I wanted to go live today on this just because there is multiple updates to cover, and we have a few articles to read through that have all come out here in the last 24 hours or less. Firstly, to kick things off, a topic near and dear to my heart, Tesla layoffs. And The Verge writing here that, quote, Elon is, a quote from Elon talking about going absolutely hardcore in regards to more layoffs at the company. So let me turn this down a little, make sure that that's not absolutely destroying people's ears. Okay. So, yeah, let me fix that a little bit. All right. Let's get into it here. So, after laying off 10% of its global workforce this month, Tesla is reportedly cutting more executives and its supercharger team. So this is pretty significant. We had a couple weeks back, as you may have recalled, and as I expressed on here, as one of the one in the large number that is the 10% reduction at Tesla. I myself got to be a part of that. And at that time, we had two of the executives step down, Drew Baglino and Rohan Patel, two very significant members of the executive staff there. And so since then, so that was April 15th when that took place. Then at the end of that week, that Friday, that was a Monday, that Friday, there were a large block, or there was a large block of, I believe it was mostly recruiting folks at the company that were then also let go at the end of the week. Now, we have some details, actually, and then there was some additional details on the Texas factory. And I don't know if that was, it came out at the start of last week or early part of last week, that news regarding just the impact on the Texas facilities. But I don't know if that was just more info that came to light from the April 15th layoff, and it was all actually just part of that. It wasn't totally clear whether that was actually an additional notification that went out just to Texas specific folks. All told, we have somewhere at this point close to 20,000, or past at this point now 20,000 folks that have been let go at the company. Pretty substantial. We were talking yesterday about how, if you were to imagine a small city, which, 20,000, that's like a small town, 20,000 people. And every single individual was jobless. You could imagine it would be a bit chaotic. Apologies, that's my guard dog watching the front door for me. So, anyways, let's get into the article here and see what's going on, and just read a little more here about some of these big departures. So, barely 2 weeks after initiating layoffs for at least 14,000 staffers, Tesla is now reportedly laying off hundreds more, including senior executives at and the majority of its supercharging team. According to an email first reported by The Information and then Electric, the automaker's senior director of EV charging, Rebecca Tanucci, is leaving the company today, Tuesday, alongside most of the 500-person team she oversaw. Tesla's head of new vehicles program, Daniel Ho, is also out along with his team. These cuts come in addition to the 10% workforce reduction took place on the 15th. And Musk's email leaves room for more. So this is from the most recent email that was sent last night. Musk said he wants Tesla to be, quote, absolutely hardcore about the cuts, and that staffers working under executives who don't obviously pass the excellent, necessary, and trustworthy test would also be out of a job. That is very interesting. Excellent, necessary, and trustworthy. All I can say to that is you, as a company, decided that in the first place. If you hire somebody, you are admitting by default that somebody is excellent, necessary, and really trustworthy. I mean, sure, you could argue trustworthiness, is something that kind of has to be proven over time. You can't just know somebody is trustworthy. But, as far as your high standards of hiring goes, those three, criterias would and should have been met in the first place. So, it's unfortunate that that's the perspective at the end of the day. And, I'm not going to sit here and have a pity party because I really don't have any ill feelings or anything in the end. Honestly, I don't. I've moved on. It's not a big deal to me. But I think that quote in particular is frustrating only because if you needed or expected those things in the first place, then you would have hired, meeting those criteria, that criteria. So to me, it's a bit weird that, you would just essentially say, so you've all along had people who were not excellent, who were not necessary, and who were not trustworthy. It's a weird thing. Something's off there. Anyway, so while the full scale of these new layoffs is unclear, Bloomberg previously reported that Tesla's total headcount reduction that began earlier this month could end up being as high as 20% of its workforce, or well in excess of 20,000 employees. Tanucci was notably responsible for the rollout of Tesla's supercharger network during her 6 years at the company, including efforts to get other companies to adopt the North American charging standard developed by Tesla. In his email, Musk says Tesla will still build new superchargers and complete those already under construction. Okay, I kind of wonder, if you're making that massive of a cut to the team. 500 people within, the sort of core operations of supercharger, that seems like you're going to have some significant knowledge loss, which probably will affect your ability to build new superchargers. So, it's also there's an interesting aspect around this, robo-taxi thing, and really just the there is at this point no automation on the charging side, right? So that piece is also kind of an interesting question. I have no idea. I have no clue or anything, or can't really speculate on it, to be honest. That basic fundamental idea of a fully automated vehicle and the need to charge it, who's going to charge it? Somebody has to plug it in somewhere. Others impacted by the new layoffs include Daniel Ho, a 10-year Tesla veteran who served as director of vehicle programs and new product initiatives, and as program manager for the Model S3 and Y vehicles. Most of the public policy team, led by former head of policy and business development Rohan Patel, who we mentioned, he left the company during the previous wave of layoffs, are also being let go. So most of the public policy, interesting. So public policy, which was led by Rohan, the former head of policy and business development. These latest job cuts follow what's already shaping up to be a terrible year for Tesla. Okay, I don't need to get into that kind of details, but anyways, the hemorrhaging of staff continues. Very interesting, it's a very, very interesting thing, and I guess that's all I'll say about it at this point. So I think it's going to end up being worse overall for the company. That's all I'll say about it. Just what I know and things that I've sort of heard and understand. I think the at least short-term future is actually going to be pretty bleak, and not just a matter of demand and EV adoption and those concerns, which are valid. I think there is going to be a level of disruption and turmoil internally with this level of cut being made. So time will tell. All right, moving on to Google. Google layoffs continue as cuts hit Flutter, Dart, and Python teams. So we reported yesterday about the Python Foundation team cut, and Google saying that they were eliminating that team, which I believe resides primarily in the Bay Area here. And then they were allegedly being told that they were going to be training or expected to train up essentially a replacement team that's going to be based out of Munich. I saw I think somebody mentioned some teams replacing them based out of India as well. So not super clear on that, but a little bit of update on this situation unfolding at Google. So Google layoffs are still rolling through the company. Flutter, Dart, and Python are among those affected by the latest layoffs, according to media reports and employee social media posts. So Flutter and Dart are frameworks; they're coding frameworks that Google owns, basically, that they created that third-party developers can utilize in their development of software. So, and then Python is just an open source language that every company uses at this point, basically. Google confirmed the layoffs to TechCrunch, but did not specify which teams, roles, or how many employees were let go. A rep told the outlet the layoffs were not company-wide and that employees affected could apply for other open roles. A Google rep told Business Insider, as we've said, we are responsibly investing in our company's biggest priorities and the significant opportunities ahead to best position us for these opportunities. Throughout the second half of 2023 and into 2024, a number of our teams made changes to become more efficient and work better, remove layers, and align their resources to their biggest product priorities. So if there's a company that I think this makes a lot of sense for, it's Google. Google is a very confusing company to me. They have their hands in so many things. I mean, it's really unbelievable if you are to look into all of the industries and businesses and verticals that Google is actually in, or even Alphabet as a parent company, the places that they actually are, they're everywhere. It's not just like tech, quote unquote. It's not just software and services, quote unquote. Like it's everything. They're in research, they're in academics, they're in science, like scientific endeavors. They're just they're everywhere, really. They're in all kinds of different non-tech industries as well. Quote here says that through this, we're simplifying our structures to give employees more opportunity to work on our most innovative and important advances and our biggest company priorities while reducing bureaucracy and layers. What are those? What are the biggest company priorities? And what are their most important and innovative advances? Obviously, AI. We know that. They're going to be one of the major AI players. They have all of the data in order to continue to build and develop towards an AGI system, which I'm sure they will at some point, and they'll probably license it out and embed it in a lot of the products that they sell. The layoffs hit key developer teams just weeks before Google's annual I/O Developer Conference, which is May 14th and 15th. One product manager working on Flutter and Dart said in an X post, the layoffs were decided at least a couple of layers above our team and affected a lot, quote, of a lot, caps, of teams. Lots of good folks got bad news and lots of great projects lost people. At the start of this year, Google laid off hundreds of workers in its central engineering division and members of its hardware teams. Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai warned staff at the time that role eliminations would continue through 2024. Google's parent company already axed about 6% of its staff, or about 12,000 workers, this previous year. The continued layoffs have prompted pushback from Googlers, with some staging protests and lashing out at senior leadership. Yet we saw that. A little bit of a sit-in protest last week, I think it was, which, of course, led to all of those people getting fired. Not everything is a college campus, you guys. Corporate offices are not college campuses. Next up, Meta. So this one's a little less clear, or it's a little more ambiguous right now. It's kind of a tentative layoff, but Meta's oversight board confirms layoffs are coming. That's fun when you get senior leadership basically just saying it's coming. The axe is about to fall, but then, you don't know when it's going to fall or who it's falling on. So Meta's self-appointed oversight board will conduct layoffs expected to impact its research support staff soon. The board has 22 official members, but also includes support staff who assist the board, which is focused on overseeing Meta's content moderation decisions across its apps and platforms, including Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and WhatsApp. It's currently unclear if the board itself would see any cuts and how many staff will be laid off. However, I hate when people end a sentence with however, comma, however. Just have a sentence after however. It just flows better. An oversight board representative tells PC Mag that exactly who will be laid off has yet to be determined, and says the cuts are part of the board's natural evolution. Interesting. They need people to be laid off to capture the power. They need to recapture power and evolve. They need to move through their phases. What are they? They're like some kind of creature. The board continues to be one of the leading content moderation organizations in the world, and Meta remains committed to its ongoing success, says Stephen Neal, chairperson of the Oversight Board's Trust. Is the Oversight Board cutting staff to cut costs like so many other tech firms? Question. That's a question. Meta isn't exactly strapped for cash. According to its most recent earnings report, it raked in over $12.3 billion in net income this past quarter. Well, yeah, that's pretty good. 12.3 in profit. It's unclear whether or to what extent the Oversight Board has tapped into its $150 million trust to fund its content moderation efforts, or how much of that funding issued in 2022 remains today. The board is fully confident that the company will provide additional funding in the future, Neal adds, without sharing details on the board's current financial health. Meta's communications director, Andy Stone, recently sentenced to 6 years in prison in absentia over Meta's content moderation decisions. Yikes, geez, 6 years? Tells the Post that Meta is still committed to supporting the Oversight Board despite the looming layoffs. We value the board's perspective, have implemented all their binding content decisions to date, and will continue to update our policies, or continue to update our policies and practices in response to their feedback. Board tells PC Mag it addressed 53 cases last year. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, more things, more hammers dropping, axes falling, other large objects descending over there at Meta. And lastly, today, new information here in the last 24 hours. Fisker. Back at it with the layoffs. They are absolutely suffering. I would hate to be a senior leader at Fisker right now. I would be looking for the exits if I worked there. I'm sure many people are. Unfortunately, the EV industry is absolutely getting trashed right now. So if you have specialized in that sector, things are not looking great in terms of job outlook generally. Might be a consideration to pivot to a different industry. All right, the article reads, EV startup Fisker is laying off more employees to, quote, preserve cash 1 week after warning investors it would have to make cuts to stave off impending bankruptcy, according to an internal email viewed by TechCrunch. Founder and CEO Heinrich Fisker told employees Monday morning in the email that the company is continuing to evaluate all viable options for our business, including a potential transaction. Does that mean acquisition? That must mean acquisition, right? Yeah, that's all options, including a potential transaction. So what were we saying yesterday, or what did I mention yesterday about when you are, you're at the dance and you want to get somebody to dance with you, or in other words, get acquired. You want to look pretty, and in order to look pretty, you need to have lots of money. This is a metaphor. And one way to do that is to fire people, right? And I mean, granted, their business is struggling, right? This isn't just they're doing well financially and they're still firing people. So it's not that simple. But I can understand too, making very, very significant cuts and letting that hopefully interest and intrigue an acquirer, an acquiring company. So kind of interesting, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that's not what the goal is there with that. I know that the Fisker, Heinrich Fisker has, this has been his thing for a long time. His name's on the company. So That would probably be a big deal, right? To just give that up or sell it off to somebody. So he also says that we are committed to identifying potential buyers and pathways to infuse capital into the business. There you go. Yeah. That said, we must preserve cash to help keep these options available to us, he wrote. He previously told staff in a meeting last week that the company was still meeting with car companies under NDA. Oh, okay. So they are actually meeting with potential buyers, which is good. That's good news, actually. Might be able to get salvaged a little bit. Be a cool little like boutique brand, underneath some other company. Who do we think would buy them? I wonder. Like, I could see like Hyundai, maybe Kia. I could see like Kia buying them. That could be like a cool acquisition, because they're doing great on their EV offerings, and generally speaking, their sales are great. I mean, they've kind of rebranded in the last few years, and they're crushing it. That Kia Telluride, it's a sweet vehicle, man, especially if you have kids. But also, I think, I think if you're one of the traditional automakers moving more and more into EV production and sales, then, their brand might be worthwhile. Again, it could just be kind of like a nice little boutique thing. Kind of like when Fiat bought Chrysler, and then you started seeing a bunch of Fiats popping up at the Dodge dealerships, in the U.S. And they were these kind of, they're kind of cool, sporty, boutique, Italian-esque styled cars. And so, you could see that. I could see something like that happening. That'd be a nice partnership, potentially. It's unclear how many employees Fisker is cutting. A spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Fisker employed 1,135 people as of April 19th, according to a regulatory filing. It previously announced cuts of 15% in February. The company announced last week that it hired a chief restructuring officer who is now in charge of approving Fisker Inc.'s budget, as well as the decision-making process for any sale of the business. It reported having just $54 million in cash and equivalents as of April 16th. And just for sadness' sake, let's see. Oh, wow. Yeah. They are now under. They are almost down to 50 cents. They are on the OTC. They're a pink sheet stock. They're a penny stock now. That is amazing to be a. We'll say significant, but at least a true automaker, which they are. They're a true automaker. They're not like a custom shop. They're not like a super boutique thing. They're just very small, right? But they are what you could say, you could argue mainstream. Like they are mainstream. That's crazy to be even under $1. That's amazing. Looks like they actually kind of came back. Oh, they were down all the way to, let me see, what was their actual low here? Oh, wow. So at the beginning of the month, they were actually down. They were down to 20 cents a share. I didn't realize they had dropped that low. So they're actually back up a little bit, which is kind of good news, I suppose. But anyways, and we see over here, Rivian down, Tesla down. Yeah, it is a tough season for the EVs, unfortunately. Hello, hello. Oh, there we go. My bad. I totally had the wrong audio on there. I apologize. All right, that does it for us. Thanks for joining. As I was saying, Tesla, Google, Meta, Fisker, all conducting more layoffs. We'll continue tracking things and keeping a pulse on the layoff scene in the tech industry here as it continues. Thanks for joining, everybody.